first up, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Century, and then I'll start running through the other questions.
All right, I'm Stuart Stanners, but I prefer to be called Stu. I'm the General Manager of Automotive Division for Century Yuasa Batteries, Australia and New Zealand.
So where did you grow up and where were you born and raised?
Well, I'm Kiwi. I was born in Auckland and raised in New Zealand. But being a typical Kiwi, I spent quite a bit of time in Australia, particularly Gold Coast and Brisbane.
And so we can tell by looking behind you, you've got a bit of a soft spot for motorbikes. What have you got, Sue?
Sure do. Yeah, I've got three, actually. My wife's got one, and we've got the Street 500 Harley Davidson, which my wife rides. There's the what I call a medium-sized Harley Davidson 1200 iron for my boys who ride as well. And the one behind me, that is my Street Glide Tourer, which I absolutely adore.
Fantastic. You must have a couple of lucky boys if they're riding around on a Harley. How old are your kids?
Yeah, 19 and 21. The 19-year-old is a bike nut too. He's a motocrosser. The 20-year-old is more of a four-wheel sort of a person. He's actually a drifter, would you believe?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what sort of drift car does he run?
He's got a 350Z.
Cool.
Yeah. No, he's done it all himself too. It's been a very good learning curve for him. He's pulled the car apart, and put all the drift gear into it. And he's done a damn good job. So, yeah, very proud of him.
Oh, so the big question, which we have to ask everyone who's got a drift car, has it got an LS in it?
No. At the moment, it's got the stock V6, 3.5 litre. It's 310, I think, horsepower. And he's just finding his feet at the moment. And anything like LS means dollars. They smoke up big time and wear the tyres out pretty quick compared to a V6 Nissan.
100%. I've got an LS and a Commodore, and lucky I've got a tyre supplier as one of my clients, because they do burn through the tyres pretty quickly.
They sure do.
So you're obviously a high achiever in the automotive aftermarket. What would your advice be to someone who wanted to start out in the auto industry?
Well, if you're talking about like a young person coming into the industry, etc., I think one of the first things that you'd have to do is you need to listen. Listen twice as much as you talk. Today, I've employed so many people over 43 years, I think, of my career, and I've always gone for attitude. If they've got the right attitude and you give them a step up, give them opportunity, and they take it, they are definitely the long-term stayers and very productive within the industry. But also, you've got to understand that you've got to walk before you can run, and you should find the footsteps of somebody you admire that is successful and follow them, and support them and learn. And when it's your time to veer off their path, you will be expecting others to follow you. So you need to know what that's like to have that support, because not one person makes that much a difference. It's about teamwork and a whole group of people coming together to achieve goals, company goals, etc. So I think that's probably some of the most important. But I think there's one really super important thing. It's probably one of the biggest factors of my career. Is I went to university specifically to do a human nature course. And I'm a believer, always have been, that people buy off people. And if you can't sell yourself, then they're not going to support you and buy off you. So you need to understand the human traits, the basic instincts of a human being, how they operate, and be a genuinely open and nice person. Listen twice as much so you can interpret the requirements and understand that, where they're coming from. That was very, very big learning curve for me.
Hey, that's great advice. And I 100%, being a business owner, understand that you can teach them the skills. You can't change their attitude if they've got a bad attitude.
No, No, you can't.
It's very interesting. Mate, that was great. I really like that. So, you've had a long career. What was if you look back, what was the one time where you went, geez, I really got this thing right?
As a young fellow, I went on many training courses, and you'd probably know this, like most people do. One of the things in a sales training course they do is they make you write down at the beginning of the course what you want to achieve and what you want to achieve in the career. And I wrote myself a position statement, if you like, and I've referred to that all of my life to remind myself why I was doing this and why it was important. And I basically have got the thing here that I wrote. It was listen, learn, and build experience till you have the confidence to go it alone. Make a positive contribution and make a difference to the motor industry. Don't be afraid of change. And I refer to that quite regularly because there are times that in my career that you get given a break or you see an opportunity, but it's a big hurdle to jump. And you need to give yourself the confidence and remind yourself why you're here and why you're doing this. And you force yourself to go the extra mile, even if you don't feel you're quite ready for it, and learn on your feet. And that positioning statement, if you like, helped me through those times.
Fantastic. I really like that. And then, of course, I know in my career, I've got plenty of things wrong. When do you look back and say, geez, I really stuffed that one up?
But one of the things I did is I was the general manager of the Auto One franchise in New Zealand. And I did that for a couple of years. And it wasn't a mistake. I'm not saying that to Auto One, not at all. But you have to be a certain person to be in the general manager's role of Auto One or any franchise for that matter. It's a very difficult thing to be good at. And the clash of personalities of all the individual business owners and everything else, I must admit there was a time where I sat in the office and said, what the hell have I done? But what, in hindsight, it turned out to be a good thing because you had to learn how to manage so many different personalities that had authority within the franchise.
I noticed that you said you liked strategy and building teams and forming associations. I see that Century's the official supplier to supercars.
Yep.
How did that come about?
Well, we're all petrol heads pretty much there. We wanted to change our image. We wanted to change how we're perceived. One of the things about a manufacturer is that in a lot of cases, obviously you feel your product's the best and it is and everything else, but you get a bit caught up in the manufacturing process, if you like. Now, they're different people to salespeople. People that work in our factory, and we've got 650 people we employ. People that are involved in the factory, they are mechanically orientated, and it's black and it's white, and they're engineers and the scientific and everything else. Whereas, and that's a little bit been an influencer for the way we've marketed our business. So I promoted a guy called Andrew Bottoms, who was 2IC within the marketing, when his boss retired, and he's done a simply magnificent job. Basically, I give him free license, but I challenge him. I say, I challenge you and your team to do this. And how you get there, I don't know. That's your job. But accept the challenge and come back and let's present it to the whole team and see where we're at. And that's the sort of thing we do. And supercars is one of those things that was always so expensive and out of our capability. And we thought, well, if we believe the results we will get from an association with the V8 supercars is that great, let's actually make the leap. Let's do it. And that's exactly what we did. And it's been sensational.
It is I'm a massive petrol head as well, and it's a fantastic championship. It's just a shame they don't make Commodores anymore. Or Falcons.
Damn shame.
Although, you know, when they stopped manufacturing Holdens, my Kingswood went up in value a fair bit. I even think the VX Commodore might be worth something now.
Yeah, it will be.
So you're going to hang on to it for a bit longer.
I would.
All right. So now, if you could just tell us a bit about Century, a bit of the history, how did it start and its progression?
Well, we started in 1928 in Sydney, and we largely sold to New South Wales. And then we expanded in the 60s to Victoria or Melbourne. And from there, we moved into Western Australia. So we gradually moved through the country. We now have a manufacturing plant just in Brisbane. And I'm pretty happy they moved it to Brisbane. Beautiful and warm. We entered into not joint ventures, but agreements, technical agreements with a Japanese storage company in the 80s. And that was hugely important to us, as it allowed us to gain their expertise and technology and introduce them to the Australian manufactured product. That allowed us to supply original equipment to Ford, General Motors, Nissan, Toyota, and many, many more. In the 80s, we became Century Yuasa Batteries, Australia and New Zealand. We entered the New Zealand market in 1990, or the early 90s actually, because it was introduced by way of privateers, and then we got corporately took over in 95, I think it was. Century Yuasa is the market leader in New Zealand, as it is in Australia. And so that's really a very quick version of how we came about.
And is all product still manufactured in Australia?
Yeah, we import from a company in Korea that we have a shareholding in. We export to not all, New Zealand is mainly an importer, but we do export some of our Australian-made products to New Zealand and so on and so forth. So our product is used with Toyota in Saudi Arabia and places like that. So obviously it's very hot in Australia, and one of the attributes that we have when we designed our latest product, we actually, with the help of Japan, GS Yuasa in Japan, came up with a technology that reduced our water loss in a battery by up to 40%, which is huge. So it was perfectly suited, and it is designed for the Australian market, essentially.
What strategies do you think set Century apart from other battery suppliers, manufacturers in Australia and New Zealand?
Well, it's an interesting one. We've got like 8,000 customers in Australia and 3,000 in New Zealand, and they cover all aspects of the industry. Retail, coming down to specific auto electrical specialists or just battery specialists, to marine, fishing, you name it. So, speaking from an automotive perspective, the biggest thing that I guess sets us apart in the industry is the fact that we're Australia's only battery manufacturer. As I said, we employ over 650 staff, and we've got $100 million goes back into the Australian economy as a consequence of our manufacture. So that's a big deal to us. So strategic wise, we really do promote the Australian made, and it's insignificant. It's a massive investment, but it's something we invest in often. In fact, we've just invested many millions last year in updating our plant with the latest technology that puts us at the forefront of battery manufacture. Any plant in the world would be looked at as being an equal. That's something we do from obviously a strategy wise. But one thing we do, and I think we do it pretty well, is we research. We're not arrogant enough to think that we know it all, if you know what I mean. Every year we canvass our customers and also research our customers' customers to determine that the offer we're going to market in is fit for purpose. And in my time in 7 years as being GM of Australasia, we've seen at least 2 different types of personality. You know, the do-it-for-me is here now for sure. You had a little bit of home mechanical stuff, but that's really dropping drastically as technology of vehicles is growing. And we're now in a stage where young fellas don't even want to talk to people. They want to click and collect. They want home delivery. They just order online anywhere in the world, and they expect it tomorrow. It's a totally different market. So to stay on top of that, we research that to make sure that our offer is fit for purpose. We introduced a battery fitment program so that our retail-based customers, who I must say, like genuine just retail, not mechanical or electrical, but retail consumer customers, sell tens of thousands or fit tens of thousands of batteries into vehicles these days. You've got to know what you're doing. So we invest heavily in training the staff to know how to fit a battery. We invest a lot of money in determining what is required to fit in specific vehicles. You could have a BMW where you've got to take the stretch bolts out of a seat, take the seat out, put the battery in, takes you 2.5 hours to do it. You've got to buy $150 worth of new stretch bolts, put it back in. Well, if a retail business customer of ours gets a phone call from the consumer and says, I've got this BMW, the battery's under the seat, can you fit it for $15? Well, 2.5 hours later, he's lost hundreds of dollars. You know what I'm saying? So we advise them what cars not to fit. Anyway, long story short, we're staying on top of that aspect of it. We are embarking on a test program at the moment of roadside assistance. There's over 1 million batteries sold on the roadside in Australia and New Zealand. And it's a very unique program. There's no program like it in the market at the moment. I don't want to give too much away at this point in time. It's not known as a Century. It's actually our customers program, and we provide the service, and that's going extremely well. So we're pretty keen to get that to Australia very quickly.
And just a general comment about the automotive aftermarket industry in Australia. Be interesting to just have your insights and how you feel it looks at the moment, and what do you think the next 2 to 3 years looks like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think up till COVID-19, things were pretty much ticking on pretty well. I think the stability in the Australian government, if you could call it that, or maybe we should say the more stable political regime, was starting to give the consumer some confidence, and we saw that coming back. I think COVID-19 is going to make a lot of changes. I mean, we as a company, anybody that can work from home is working from home. Now, we found that to be extraordinarily successful. It's a funny thing. You being a human being, when you're sitting at your desk at 8 o'clock and you start at 8 and somebody comes at 8:45, you go, oh, okay, and they leave at their normal time. There you go, like less loss of productivity. Where in actual fact, it's not, of course. But the fact of the matter is, when you're at home, you don't focus on those negative things. What you're doing is you're focusing on what it should be, which is the KPIs or the productivity that's being produced. Our productivity has increased. And so we now question the fact, and if we're getting more productivity out of our staff, and let's face it, we've got a sales op person that might go and put a load of washing on, come back for an hour, and then go and hang the washing out. They come back and we don't care, and we don't see it. But at the end of the day, or end of the week, the productivity that person's putting out is staggering. And it can only be a reflection of working from home. So I think all business will reflect on these things and change how they go to business. We most certainly will be. I think home delivery is going to be massive in the automotive industry. Uh, Perhaps even collection of vehicles to be serviced. You might find that's something that may come up as rather than the consumer dropping the vehicle off at a motor mechanic's place or whatever. I mean, shopping centres are probably going to see less floor traffic as a consequence of click and collect. Home delivery, we're working on home delivery for our customers now, which goes hand in hand with both. It's just where the market's going. But I think, we're doing very well. And talking with others, they are too. I think that it's brought people together, this situation, and I think that's such a powerful tool for everybody. And in commerce, I think it creates a positive outlook because you've gone through a tough time, and now you're coming out the other side. It's all roses, and people spend money in those frames of mind. So I think we're in for a pretty good next couple of years.
I echo your comments about working from home. So we've had our team working from home for more than a month, and it becomes about outcomes, not about hours. Which is
absolutely.
And
in fact, if anything, people are probably working too long.
Yeah, so I love that, being the boss. Yeah. And Stu, I think that at the other end of this, the CBD will be quiet.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. It's teaching people that what is unnecessary. They don't have to go in their car. They have to drive. Like, for me, I'm in traffic. My average kilometre is, we'll work it out. It takes me 45 minutes a day to go 12 kilometres. And it's the same coming home. On a less than good day to be an hour. Well, it's 2 hours out of my day, which is so unproductive. And even if why jump in a car and go down to buy a $10 tube of sealant? You just go click and collect. It's a lot quicker, or even better, you pay $5 for a delivery. Alcohol. How many people is getting in the lockdown is getting alcohol delivered to their home? So yeah, it's going to change a lot.
Definitely. I'm excited about the other side of COVID. Yeah. I think it'll be a change for the better. Can change buyer behaviour. I think is going to be the biggest change, and like online shopping will grow enormously because people have to do it. I love click and collect and home delivery.
Yeah,
it's going to be, and for our clients, it's an exciting time for them as well because that going online all of a sudden gets around. I mean, I deal with a lot of clients that have a lot of channel management issues where I feel like you should just launch a website and sell straight to the consumer and keep all the margin. I think this will make a lot of them do it.
You're right.
And look, we're up to the last question. Why is Century a member of AAAA? What do you guys get out of it?
Oh, well, it's critical. The industry needs a voice, also needs a central hub of communication so we can share things, stories, what's happening in the marketplace. Networking is the most powerful tool at every single conference you have. This gives us a form of networking that quite simply just works. I mean, the Automotive Aftermarket Expo we have every couple of years is sensational. It gives us a great opportunity to get in front of our clients. And look, it's that big. Plane loads of Kiwis come over. And so you really, it's working for both countries, undoubtedly. The Right to Repair campaign and the lobbying AAA did was sensational, and it worked. For the motor mechanics to have the confidence that someone's got their back is fabulous, and they really did do a tremendous job of that alone. So, big supporter. And it's very, very important to the industry, and they do a great job.
Mate, I love that.
Well, it's true.
It is true too. I think Manbrands has been a member for 8 or 9 years, and it's fantastic. And I mean, the networking for me is amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I mean, we do lots of aftermarket brands, and I enjoy talking to lots of people that work in the aftermarket. There's a lot of good people work in the automotive aftermarket industry.
Yeah. You know, it's what's amazing too is people. I think it's an industry people stay in for quite a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There are. I'm the old school that I've always been in it, as opposed to somebody's come in from the food industry or whatever it might be. But when they come in, and they're usually from a high level, after about 6 to 12 months, I always get them talking to me over a beer saying, God, this is a great industry. This is fantastic. We're having some fun. And so I think it is a good industry. And newcomers that come into it just love it. They fall in love with it.
Mate, that's it. Really appreciate it.
Hey, look, I really appreciate the opportunity, Trent. Thank you so much. You know, it's quite a privilege to be asked to do this. I just hope there's something in it that makes it worthwhile.
Oh, mate, there's plenty in that, Stu.
Thank you. Good talking with you. See you,
Same, mate. Have a good one.
Take care.